South Florida, very cold today, freezing my butt off. But here's a heartwarming story for you of Chucky Thus. Great story, rags to riches, athletic excellence. Here he is, Chuck Thus.
So the Zamboni driver was able to beat the Leafs. If you put the pads on right now, Chuck, could you beat the Leafs?
I don't know, but I'd give it a heck of a go.
If I tried, my brain would fall off.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up and play your minor hockey?
I grew up in Arkona, as you had mentioned earlier, Arkona, Ontario, in a little village of just under 500 people, and played my minor hockey in Forest, which is not much bigger, about I think 2,700 or 3,000 people, and I think at the time we were classification double C, where a lot of people think, if you're not playing AAA, you're not being seen. So stories like yours and mine, they may not happen a lot, but they do happen. So it doesn't matter where you grow up. And I wouldn't change where I grew up for anything. I love Arkona. I still love going back there. I love coming to Southwestern Ontario and seeing all my friends like you and people that I grew up with. So it's good.
All right. So when you were growing up there, like myself in Strathroy, small town, and we were very fortunate in growing up that we had lots of great role models and important coaches growing up, even in small towns. So can you speak to some of the role models or coaches you had growing up that helped you on your journey?
Absolutely. The one gentleman that played a massive role for me in Forest, it was a gentleman by the name of Fred Maxfield. Fred has passed on now, but he used to be at every single game, every single practice, and he was always right there to teach me and to guide me and to hold my hand, tell me to be patient, tell me the things that I needed to do, tell me the things that the guys that were making it to the next level, what they were doing, the good things I was doing. He was always very, very influential. Even as I went into college, he would always take the time to talk to me and just remind me to be myself and remind me what got me there was me and that I don't have to be anything special because being me was enough.
Now, how did you end up going to Miami of Ohio? What was the path that got you to Miami of Ohio? It wasn't a straight line.
No, not at all. It was rather crooked. I was originally drafted by the Ottawa 67s in the 10th round. By Hall of Famer Killer Kilray. He was the coach that drafted me. And I went up to camp. They had their goaltending situation figured out, so I went back to Sarnia to play Junior B. Partway through the year, he wanted to pull me back up, but that wasn't going to be, so I stayed there. The following year, the Detroit Ambassadors, which now I believe are the, it's another team, they changed names, Keeks, and I can't think of the name.
Plymouth Whalers?
Plymouth Whalers, yes, thank you. They drafted me in the expansion draft. So I went to play in the OHL for probably a quarter of the season, maybe a third of the season, and before they traded for the goaltender that won the Memorial Cup the year before. And so I was sent back to Junior B, thought things were coming to an end, but fortunately, Mike Norton, who's now back at Miami, and you know Norty well, he saw something in me and was intrigued enough to go to then Coach George Gwozdecki and suggested and recommend that they appeal to the NCAA for my college eligibility. And once they were willing to do that, I was, of course, all on board, and I decided that I would walk on to Miami if they were willing to do that, and there the journey started. That's really where it just started.
So obviously, because you played major junior and you were ineligible for a period of time, how long was that, and how much of a challenge was it since you're a walk-on and being a Canadian kid paying for U.S. university education?
It was a huge challenge and a huge sacrifice for my parents. I mean, like I said, we grew up in a town of 500 people. They were self-employed, and at the time it was about $15,000 U.S. per year to go to Miami, which maybe doesn't seem like a lot now, but back in the early 90s, that was a lot of cash. And they made that sacrifice for me. And I was ineligible for my freshman year and 10 games of my sophomore year. So wow. It was a good bit of my time at Miami, but it worked out to be well worth it. And I wouldn't change it for the world, to be honest.
So when you were ineligible as a freshman and for the start of your sophomore year, were you able to practice with the team or not?
I was not. I was able to do everything off the ice that I could, the dryland training, the runs to Houston Woods, the running of the stadium stairs. I can see I'm bringing back some memories that you remember well. Yeah. I could do all of that, the weightlifting with Coach Dalrymple, the whole 9 yards, but I could not be on the ice with the varsity team, so I was practicing and playing games with the club team at the time. Right. That's the way I was staying sharp, and that's the way I was still seeing pucks.
And how did you motivate yourself in that period of time? Because a lot of kids now, they're a backup goalie, they don't play for 10 games and they think the world's ending. And here you are not getting to play for a full season.
I look back and I've been asked that question a few times, and it was really just my drive to be the best that I knew that I could be. And whether it was playing club or playing varsity, I knew at some point that I was going to play varsity hockey. And I had no proof of that because I was a walk-on, which was tough to be a walk-on going to college, but it is possible. 100% I think I'm proof of that. But I just took it day by day and stayed living in the moment and made sure that I did everything today that I could to make myself better and to give myself the opportunity. So when the opportunity arose, I was going to meet the challenge.
So talk to me about that fork in the road where you finally got your chance. How did that manifest itself? Like, when did that chance arrive? Because I think all athletes, myself included, can recall when they've had a fork in the road where it could either go left or right. So the opportunity, golf balls on the tee, when did you hit it in the fairway?
It really started, Keeks, probably the summer going into my senior year, which was prior, because in my junior year, I was actually cut from the varsity program. I was told not even to show up to training camp, nothing.
Why was that?
I guess Coach Gwiazdecki felt like I wasn't going to make a difference. After my meeting, after my sophomore year, he told me I would never play at Miami and that he would allow me to transfer. He actually grabbed the phone and was ready to dial some Division II and Division III schools on my behalf to have me transfer. And as he was doing that, I stood up and I said, "Coach, with all due respect, you're wrong and I will play here." I got up and I slammed his door so hard, and you probably remember the doors at the old Goggin. They were all glass, and I thought I broke it. I actually had to turn around and make sure I didn't break it. I was not a very happy guy. So when I came back my junior year, I was strictly club. I think I only practiced maybe a half a dozen times my junior year with the varsity team, and that's when then #1 goalie Richard Schulmistra, who I think you know, Shuey, was playing tremendously well, and if he needed a break, then I got to be the guy that filled in. So, but right after that year, goalie coach Mitch Korn came to me, and you know Mitch well. You have a long history with Mitch as well, and he came to me and asked if I was willing to work the Miami Hockey School. He would kind of mentor me over the summer and work with me at nights when we could get some free ice, and he would see what we could put together to see if I could at least make myself to be a backup, because the varsity team needed a backup goaltender my senior year, because we had Kevin DeChambeau, who was a full ride goalie, and he was scheduled to be the #1 guy, and Mitch felt like I could be the backup. So it really started then, and we started putting in a lot of hours, 10:30 at night. We'd work, I'd see 500, 600, 700 pucks every night. And Mark Frankenfeld, I don't know if you know Frankie, he's the North American Hockey League commissioner, and Frankie would shoot pucks till he couldn't shoot pucks anymore. And we just worked throughout the summer, and when we came back, I was invited to training camp, which I thought was pretty cool. And coming out of training camp, I was the backup goalie. And I thought, I thought I had arrived at that point. I had made a big step. I was 100% varsity.
No scholarship though, you're still walking on.
No scholarship, still paying. And from there, it just kind of got interesting. The first 4 games of the year, or 5 games of the year, sorry, we really got trounced pretty bad. I mean, we were getting beat 6-2, 7-3, getting scored on. And we were in Bowling Green, our 6th game of the night, 6th game of the year. And we were down, I think it was 6-2 in the 3rd period. One of our guys was injured. And Coach Mazzolini looked down at the bench and said, "Come on, Chuck, let's go." And I looked at him and I was like, "Me?" Like, I really wasn't expecting it. And he's like, "Yes, let's go, you're in." So I grabbed my mask and stood out there, and I'd be lying, Keeks, if I didn't say when I stood out there and our medical staff was tending to our player that I actually stood there and cried. I realized I had done it, and I didn't know what was in store for me at that point. All I knew is that I was playing in a varsity game. I was going to play about 10 minutes, and I had realized my dream right there and then.
And how did you do in that 10 minutes?
It went pretty well. I didn't give up any goals, made 4 or 5 saves, and felt pretty calm and felt like I belonged. And I really attribute all the things that Mitch did, all the things that Frankie did, and all the preparation with Coach Dalrymple even. My hat goes off to him, because every night I'd be working out at 9:30 at night, where he could have shut the weight room down and never did. Always waited till I was done, told me he was busy doing things. I don't know what he was doing. I think he was just allowing me to do my thing. And if it wasn't for all those guys, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, you know, Coach Steve Cady played a huge role as well, because we got a whole new coaching staff my senior year, and they were willing to write me off. And Coach Cady stood up for me and said to the new coaching staff that they would give me an opportunity. If I fell flat on my face, that was on me. But I was what Miami stood for, and they were going to give me a chance. And when they did, it was giddy up and away we went.
So this is where the story, proverbial fork in the road, happens. You get your 10 minutes, and all of a sudden, how'd the rest of the season unfold?
It went pretty well. I didn't play the following game against Ohio State. We went, you probably remember the days when we would play home and home with Ohio State. Friday would be there. Saturday would be down in Cincinnati because we were trying to promote varsity ice hockey up in Oxford at Miami. And so I got the start on Saturday, and the morning skate coach come up to me and he said, "Chuck, you're going to go tonight." And I was like, "All right, that's pretty cool. I got 10 minutes and now I'm getting a start. So things are, you know, this is all right." We went down there and we beat them 4-2. And as I was getting undressed, not really thinking a whole lot of it, just thinking that it was pretty neat that I actually had a win now, he leaned over and he said to me, "If you continue to play like that, you'll play a lot this year." And it worked out pretty well. I played every game but one the rest of the way.
And you're sort of glossing over the fact that there was some award that they gave, some little award you got for doing that. What was that called?
There were a few along the way, but probably the big one was I was named Miami Hockey's first ever first team All-American.
It's an amazing story when you consider where you came from and where you got to. And so you become an All-American, and you did a lot of great record breaking there at Miami. So what was it like being a star at Miami? What was the life like at Miami away from the rink?
It was pretty good, although I look back and it was probably good because Mitch Korn did a really good job of kind of isolating me from a lot of it. But you know, it was neat because you go to class and people are always, you know, "Great game," or "Good luck this weekend," and professors were doing the same thing. And you know, you go uptown for a little while after the games and everybody was high-fiving you and shaking your hand, patting your back. It was really cool that way. But Mitch did a really good job too of keeping me level-headed and keeping my focus on just being right here, right now, and playing, you know, each period, because he would come down after each period and talk to me, make sure that I was okay, make sure that everything was going well. We'd talk after every game. So he did a really good job of kind of isolating me from a lot of the outside noise as well. Because if I'm being 100% honest with you, Keeks, I had no idea that I was even up for any award at all at Miami. I just kind of was doing my thing, and come the end of the season, it was like, okay, this is the end of the season. I had an opportunity to go to the IHL with the Chicago Wolves. They wanted to bring me in to play their home stretch in the playoffs. I declined because I wanted to graduate on time, and my degree was very important to me. And they respected that, which I thought was really wonderful. But I really had no idea that I had that kind of a season.
And right in the moment, you weren't thinking about what's coming or what happened. You're just thinking about right now.
Right now. And I knew that if I just kind of stayed present in present moment, that everything was going to be okay. And I didn't even really realize if I had a chance to go pro. I mean, I was kind of that naive to the whole deal. And I think that's probably what made it even more special. Because like you had kind of alluded, I think kids today, if they don't play, you know, 3-4 games in a row, their world's coming to an end, they want to transfer. And I mean, we just look at college football. I mean, if somebody loses their job, they don't fight to get it back, they transfer. I wasn't interested in that, and I still don't condone that. I think, you know what, put your nose to the grindstone and be the best that you can be every day. And if you do that, your opportunity is going to come. It has to. And when it does, are you going to be ready to answer the bell? And if you're putting in the work, you will answer the bell, I promise.
It's a great point you mentioned about Mitch insulating you from all that other stuff, but he obviously didn't do it too well because somebody slipped through the cracks. Didn't you marry a girl from Miami?
I did marry a girl from Miami, thank goodness, and we've been together 28 years, been married for almost 21, which is wonderful. She's a tremendous blessing, and she's been with me the entire ride, and she was with me when I wasn't playing, and she was with me when I was, and she was able to enjoy the years after as well, so it's been great.
So did she meet you before you were an All-American or after?
She did. She met me when I was a club goalie. So
that's true love.
True love.
That's true love.
Yes.
So
and she was one of the 10 or 12 people watching the club games at Goggin.
A couple last questions here. So you ended up, after being an All-American, you played pro, and and then at some point the hockey career wound down. Talk to me about your time after playing at Miami, and then what happened, and then what you're doing now.
At the time after Miami, it was a huge transition. I had an opportunity. I had hired my agent, and there was a lot of NHL teams that wanted to bring me to camp. Nobody was really ready to sign me to a contract because I'd only played the 1 year. But I was able to fortunately sign a deal in the old IHL in Los Angeles with the Ice Dogs, and John Van Boxmeer, who you know Boxy well because he's from our area, he was willing to take a chance, and he signed me, and I went out and I started out pretty well. Ended up getting a knee injury. I tore the meniscus in my knee, which did not work out real well. And so I ended up playing a little bit more on the coast, came back. And the following years I spent between a little bit in the American League, a little bit in the IHL, but mostly in the East Coast because I just wasn't able to recover from that particular incident, which when I look back now, it made it even better that I got my degree from Miami because I had something to fall back on, and I was playing because I loved the game. I still had the dream to be in the National Hockey League, still worked hard every single day, but it was difficult. I mean, I got a few slashes in the pan here and there, but my dream, the only dream I didn't realize was the dream of stepping on the National Hockey League ice. And I guess now that the Zamboni driver in Carolina has done it, I've now decided to reach back to elite athletes and just help them be the best version of themselves that they can be, whatever that means, because everybody's best version is something a little bit different. And a lot of it is on the mental health side of it that we deal with because there's so much pressure in today's game. There's so much pressure in today's world, just outside of the game as well. So I started a company called Compassionate Connection, and I work one-on-one or in groups and just help everybody, these elite athletes, become the best version of themselves that they can be. And you can look on the web. I have a website, thecompassionateconnection.com. You can reach me through there. I'm on Instagram as well at Compassionate Connection. And just reach out if it's something you feel like you want to do, you want to have a conversation, let's talk. And if it's a fit, we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day away from your family, and I love you, Chucky, and I tell your story to every minor hockey group I come across, and every summer camp I tell the story because when people start feeling sorry for themselves, you're a huge role model for them, and I really appreciate you sitting down with me, and Miami forever, baby.
Absolutely. I appreciate you and appreciate you blazing the trail for guys like me at Miami, so thank you, Keith.
Have you come to the fork in the road yet in your career development? Has a fork happened? If it hasn't, it's coming. In every athletic endeavor and every business endeavor, success comes after a fork in the road. What do I mean by that? It means if you look back when you're done playing, there will be a seminal moment at some point where you can say things went left or right, either good or bad. And in my case, at a very interesting fork in the road where my career took off, where it could have easily had me pumping gas in Strathroy for the rest of my life. It happened in Tillsonburg, Ontario. I was playing Junior B for the Strathroy Rockets, and I was named to the All-Star team. When I get there, you know what an All-Star game's like. No defense, lots of offensive chances, guys trying to show up. And back then, scholarships for Canadian kids were realistic opportunities. In Junior B, back then, they'd send 10, 12 kids a year on full rides. So, all college teams, Michigan, Michigan State, Bowling Green, Ohio State, Miami of Ohio, were all represented at that All-Star game to decide who was going to get scholarships. One of the key people there was Mitch Korn. Mitch Korn was the goalie scout / assistant coach for the Miami Redhawks. Back then they were called the Redskins. So I'd been reached out to by him before the game, and he said he was going to be there and he wanted to make a decision. So there's some pressure. I know the scouts there. I know the potential for full scholarships on the line. I knew before the game this would be my fork in the road. So Bo Horvat's dad and uncle, Tim and Ron Horvat, were playing against me. First shot on net, Timmy Horvat cashes in a loose puck rebound. I'm down 1-0, 12 seconds into the game. And here is where the fork in my road happened. I remember skating over to the corner and telling myself, and I'll bleep it out, I am not pumping gas in Strathroy the rest of my life. Went back to the crease, composed myself, and I stopped 28 shots in the remaining part of the first half of the game. We were splitting the games in the All-Star game back then. So in half a game, I think I went 28 saves on 29 shots and found a way to make the fork in the road go the way I wanted it. Because after the game, Mitch Korn came up to me and offered me a full scholarship to Miami of Ohio. which later parlayed under his coaching and his tutelage into a second-round draft choice of the Vancouver Canucks and onward to play in the NHL on December 5th, 1990. So, if I let in that second puck in the All-Star game, I likely would become a Chiquita Banana goalie, giving up goals in bunches. I could have gave up 8. And then I'd be telling everybody, when I was an old man like I am now, that I could have played in the NHL if things went that way. So what does that mean for you? It means if you haven't come to that fork in the road in your career right now, be mindful that it is coming, where your career is going to go one way or the other. And if you're an adult now playing in the beer leagues, playing rec hockey, and your career didn't pan out, have an honest introspection, because I think you could pass that along to some kids you may come across as a coach or a mentor and say, listen, I know when I was 17, I had a fork in the road. Maybe it was an injury in a car accident. Maybe it was something where you didn't do enough dry land training. Maybe it was something where you got kicked off a team for this reason or that reason. But at the end of the day, I firmly believe every one of you watching this either has already had your fork in the road or your fork in the road is coming. So, good luck navigating the fork in the road.